The Colorado Avalanche remain one of the league's best teams, but an injury to their captain may affect the rest of the season. Chris Miceili of Locked On Avalanche joins us to discuss that and all things Colorado Avalanche.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back to the Locked On NHL podcast. Gil Martin with you here, and thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. It's my pleasure to welcome back to the show a very familiar face to Locked On NHL viewers and listeners, Chris Miceili of Locked On Avalanche. And Chris, quite an eventful week for your team, including an injury to the captain. How does this change things for the Colorado Avalanche heading down the stretch?
Oh, this changes a lot of things, Gil. It's bad, obviously, because Gabe Landeskog is probably having his best season of his career. And yeah, he's going. They nobody even really knew he had a knee problem, and they're gonna give him some knee surgery on Monday. And the way they're phrasing it is they're hoping that he's back for like a stretch run, is how they're saying it. I think everything is in line for him to come back for the playoffs. Could he come back the last couple games of the season to kind of get like freshened up before the playoffs? Sure. But I don't see that happening because the Avs are players at the trade deadline, and we'll get to that in a minute. But they might go the LTIR route that the Tampa Bay Lightning so familiarly went a couple years ago. It could happen now with Landeskog and Sam Girard. Sam Girard is going to be out for a month. My thinking is, if he's going to be out for a month, what's another two weeks? There's only about 6 weeks left in the season. You would save $12 million putting those two alone on LTIR. And then this whole maybe getting one guy, maybe now you can get two guys. And wow, would that be some team heading into the playoffs? But it stinks that he's gone because, as we're recording this, they're playing Calgary. And that's the type of team that, you need someone like Gabe Landeskog playing against a team like Calgary. They're a physical team. Landeskog's a physical guy, and he has no problem mixing it up. And like I said before, he's having his best season of his career. And I don't think that they would really, if they had concern that this was going to be like something that was going to be very long, they would have done it earlier, but because they're saying, we think he'll be back for a stretch run, makes me believe, okay, we're just saying that to make it sound good. But I think the Avs are setting this thing up to be Tampa Bay version 2.0.
Now, look, I understand if they make that kind of a move, that is all within the rules as they exist right now. But from a league-wide standpoint, should the NHL change this rule?
Yeah, I do. Because, it's a loophole. And I'm surprised they haven't shut it after Tampa Bay. Because now look at this. If Tampa Bay did it, if the Avs go and do it, and they end up winning a Stanley Cup, now you have your last two Stanley Cup winners have exploited this thing. Do you want that to be what people are looking at? You want to bring in new fans, and people are going to be looking at the NHL as like, is that what teams do? And well, no. Well, yes, it is the answer. If it happens 2 times in a row, yeah. So I don't know. I don't like it. Vegas is doing it right now too.
Yeah.
With Stone. I mean, I think he's got a legit injury, but it worked out for them. It worked out for them that, Eichel was coming back right around when they were, I don't think they were just going to push Stone anymore. They were just going to be like, we can use this. Why not do it now? Let him get 100% for the playoffs. We don't have to worry about him for a couple months, and then we'll see where it goes. So obviously Tampa Bay did it. Vegas is doing it. And I think you're going to see the Avalanche be the next team that does it. I honestly don't like it. But hey, I mean, if teams are doing it, do it yourself.
It's within the rules.
Right.
But, the question, of course, is, should it be? And that's, something that the league will have to address, hopefully, during the offseason. But, all right, so no Landeskog now for the rest of the regular season or close to it.
Mm-hmm.
How does this change things? Trade deadline's a week away. Do they look to add someone to juice up the offense a little bit more in his absence? Or do you stick with what you were planning on doing before Landeskog was hurt and say, okay, he'll be back for the playoffs, we'll be okay?
Well, they're gonna add somebody anyway. So yeah, I think this changes the dynamic, and we'll know more because the surgery is Monday, and I think the Avs are waiting to get like an official word on what the doctors say he'll be out for. If they say no, like you can forget about the regular season, he's going on LTIR. That is going. So it falls in line perfectly with the Avalanche to get the results from the surgery, hear from the doctors, and then make moves according to that. And yeah, if again, and I think even if they say he'll be ready like the last week of the season, play the loophole.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Why rush it? Yeah.
Why rush it? Let him get another week off. And if that happens, like I said, you free up $12 million with him and Sammy Girard. But I don't think that they might not do it with Sam Girard because he could be back in a month. He's up in the air. If you don't bring him back, then you're still saving $7 million with Landeskog. All right. So what do? Yeah, you're gonna. I mean, you're always hearing Claude Giroux. I think that's soured a little. I don't want to say soured. I think it's slowed down a little bit. But I don't think they're completely out of it. I think they can put together a package to bring Claude Giroux in, and that would be perfect because what they're doing right now, what they have done actually in the past couple weeks, Andrei Burakovsky was on a just I don't even know the word for it. Like he could not score. He was in the biggest. He's beyond a slump, and he went 17 games in a row where he didn't score a goal. He had I think he had like 2 assists, but he didn't score a goal. So what
you
they
and
did
I
was
had as many goals as he did.
yes, exactly. And for a little while, most recently, they brought him up to the first line to try to get him going and move Landeskog down to the second line. Not because Landeskog is not playing well. It's just you have the ability to do that when you have this Avalanche team. And it worked like a charm. He's been on fire. So he's probably going to stay on the top line. Do they bring in someone like Claude Giroux? Yeah, I think it could happen. I've been singing the praises of Jacob Chikrin for a while. And they do need some defensive depth. They need some offensive depth, not so much in the scoring department, but some defense. And they were looking at Cal Clutterbuck, believe it or not, from your boys. Maybe bringing him in for some defensive depth. I wouldn't be against that. So I think you're looking at Clutterbuck. I think you're looking at Giroux. And you're not hearing Chikrin a lot, but for me, I think it makes all the sense in the world, especially if Sam Girard is going to be out for a while. You could bring those guys in, and holy God, like you got a series on your hand with these guys. You have a series on your hand anyway with these guys, but
Right.
now they can do a little bit more damage than originally thought because they're right up against the cap. And they don't have a ton of draft picks because they gave a lot away to make some moves of the players that they have now.
Like Taves.
Like Taves, yeah. And Darcy Kemper. They gave Arizona the first round pick for him. So they didn't have a lot of capital, but now if Landeskog does end up on LTIR, they do have some cap space, and that's really all they need. So it was going to be a fun trade deadline for them anyway. Now it's like Avs fans like are it's weird because like you can't wait for the trade deadline because they can really make some moves now, but you have that ability because your captain is hurt. So it's like bittersweet on both ends, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it will certainly be an interesting week ahead for the Avalanche and then stretch drive and the playoff run. And I know you'll be there to cover it all. Chris, why don't you tell our listeners and our viewers where they could find your podcast and where they could find you on social media?
Yeah, just like you said in the beginning, anywhere you get your podcasts, we are there. And on Twitter, LOPN_Avalanche. On Instagram is Locked On Avalanche. And we have our own YouTube channel as well. So just search for Locked On Avalanche there.
All right, Christmas.